Hey everyone, Jorge here. I wanted to start this channel by talking about my favorite game series of all time, Dark Souls. A lot of you have probably heard about this game and know that it's a difficult series, and it's not necessarily labeled as a horror game. Rather, it's labeled as a RPG or ARPG. Not really ARPG, but RPG dark fantasy type, with many difficult bosses, and it just has a reputation of bringing tribulations to new players. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily a Dark Souls veteran, but I have been playing for probably about 5 years, something along that line, around since 2012, and I started playing Dark Souls 1, which in my personal opinion is the scariest of the three, and that will kind of lead me towards my entire commentary and review of the series, if I can call it a review. Now, I just made a bold statement saying that Dark Souls 1 is the scariest for me. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I just feel that Dark Souls 1 was the scariest because, and maybe this might just be because it brought me into the series. I didn't know what I was getting into, and by the time that I was engrossed in this game, the game developers really started to implement more aspects of horror within their game, saying like more bosses that had scarier designs, new worlds that definitely frightened players like Blight Town, and really just many aspects that makes a player feel completely encapsulated. And that might not be the best word to use for it, but what I mean is that you're in such a confined space within your level of power, and the world is getting more and more difficult, and enemy placement is getting a lot more decisive, and really you have to understand, and in order to progress through the game, you'll have to learn and memorize specific enemy placements, and really just like move sets, and how to use your own weapons, and how your character's limited, and all those great things that you kind of commit to a sort of a muscle memory. And that's kind of how you progress through the game. But Dark Souls 1 just really brought me into the series. Therefore, it was the scariest for me. And I truly believe that 2 and 3 have amazing aspects in their own, and have aspects of horror as well. So, but without lingering too far into why Dark Souls 1 was my first game, let's actually talk about 2 and 3. So, really, I just want to say again that Dark Souls 1 brought me a new sense of feeling weak compared to the world around me. The gameplay in the background, by the way, and I should have probably mentioned this sooner, is simply me recording new playthroughs with new characters in all three games, hoping to create good PvE and PvP builds. So, and actually, I'll just get into why Dark Souls 1 was the most horrifying experience of the three, and that's because of how the map worked. Once you reach Firelink Shrine, you have many directions to choose from to start your adventure. As you can probably see in the gameplay, I decided to go into the catacombs to to obtain the Gravelord's sword for an easy start to my game. Okay, so I pretty much cheesed the game in a sense, but I figured I've enjoyed this game, I've played it many different ways, I'm just going to do it the way I want to try to get myself a good playthrough, and to try to get myself a good character from the start. The catacombs created an unnerving sense in me because of the situation I was immediately placed into. Enemies can't die, and they do a lot of damage, especially to a new character that is probably a deprived class, but I think in the gameplay I decided to choose the Assassin, or the Wanderer. The Wanderer, actually. I chose the Wanderer. I had to use speedrunning tactics to get my weapon and escape, and simply, that was exactly what I did. I didn't try to waste my time finding characters that wouldn't die. The other two directions lead to other parts of the game, but there's only one true direction for the progression of the story. Moving away from Dark Souls 1 and skipping 2, we reach Dark Souls 3. The sort of scary, but not as scary as Dark Souls 1, in my personal opinion. Or in my humble opinion. Personal opinion, that's sort of Moving away from Dark Souls 1 and skipping 2, we reach Dark Souls 3, the least scary in my humble opinion. It just so happens that the game progression is not as intimidating as 1. One can easily play through the game with very little stress. Titanite shards are thrown left and right, and amazing weapons are easily found in an early game. One can make a decent PvE character within the first hour of the game so long as they know where items are. Many portions of Dark Souls 3 are scary. For instance, the Erithal dungeon and the jailers are completely terrifying for me. This is because of what the Erithal jailers do to the player. All the points that you put in vitality, yeah, they're all gone once they catch a whiff of your ashen character, basically. You're immediately put into a position of being hunted, not knowing what will happen to your character. And that's really the stem of horror in video games. I feel that I need to state again that I absolutely love Dark Souls 3. It's creative in gameplay, innovative in design, and just an overall fun game to play. Yet it seems to repeat a lot of what Dark Souls 1 was. Points have been made that Dark Souls 2 and 3 have had too many replications of Dark Souls 1 bosses and enemies, but I must say, and this is my rebuttal to that statement, that a company can only be so creative while staying true to the series. I feel that this statement is just not completely true. Going back to the genius of the jailers and even the evangelists, these new mobs are, in my opinion, complete genius. They add a new set of threats to players that may be accustomed to only particular threats in their Dark Souls games. Without lingering too long on Dark Souls 3, I wish to simply state that Dark Souls 3, while it was not the scariest game for me personally, it might have been a nightmare for new players to the Souls series. Now finally talking about Dark Souls 2, this game, for one reason, and nearly one reason only, is scary because of two words: soul level. Players are restricted as far as PvP goes because of their soul level, the particular amount of souls that they have collected, not the souls used to level up. Dark Souls 2 is fun, but it definitely took a wrong turn as far as intimidating players goes. You run into the pursuer like a million times for Pete's sake, and by then you just grow accustomed to it, to the point where it's just a trivial obstacle in your way. So pretty much that's my opinion of the three games. It might have just ended a little briefly, but I just decided to write a script. That's pretty much my opinion on Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. They're good games, but definitely I feel that Dark Souls 1 was the scariest for me personally. If you have an opposing opinion, feel free to let me know in the comments. Just try to keep it relatively calm. I'm open to your opinions. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and enter my notifications, or have me enter yours if that's how it goes. I don't even remember how YouTube works anymore. So thank you again. Hope y'all have a wonderful day. Goodbye.